Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is part 2 of my series on retro gaming books, vintage video game books to be more precise. And today I'm going to be covering books from the 70s and early to mid 80s that are trade paperbacks and hardcovers, oversized books. In my first video in this series, I covered mass market paperbacks, pocket books, smaller paperback books that you can slip in your back pocket. These are typically bigger sized books, odd sized books, what are often called trade paperbacks, and there's some hardcovers in here as well. So let's get started checking out my collection of vintage video game books from the 70s and 80s that are not mass market sized. The family playbook for Intellivision games, really tough book to find here. I've only seen this once, and it was in a friend's collection, and he sold it to me. It's pretty neat. It's really a user-friendly guide because your friends and your family, you guys can keep scores, keep records. And this is sort of a pristine copy. And I would like to see a really heavily used copy with scores and stuff. I think that would be neat, but I do like this. And I'd like to see something similar for the Amico coming out in October. This sort of reimagining of the Intellivision system. It'd be cool to see an Amico equivalent of this, since it's going to be, a console intended for families, for couch co-op, etc. I really love this book as well. Another hard one to find from the Pong era. Really, really cool book with lots of photos. I found this at Barber's Bookstore in downtown Fort Worth many years ago. And it shows the Odyssey, Pong systems, lots of neat photos. Just a great classic book. Priceless, really. Excellent stuff there. This is an interesting book, The Book of Atari Software, 1983. It covers computers primarily, Atari 8-bit computers, but as you can see, VCS reviews included. And I did quote some of these VCS reviews in one or two of my books. Pretty cool. Well, yeah, neat catalog. The Winner's Book of Video Games. There were many, many tips and tricks books published back in the day. And I don't go out of my way to collect children's books, specific like children's story books. When I do find them for a decent price, though, I'll pick one up. Looks like I got this one at Half Price Books for a couple of bucks. They're cute, throw them in my collection. They're kind of neat. Like I say, I don't go out of my way for these, but when I do find them, they're fun to have. Adventures of Cubert. I think I actually got that one at a thrift store. Yeah, fun artwork. And Video Invaders. That's kind of a sort of an industry, games of chronology. So you've got history and information about the games, and then just some history of Atari. So there's business. See Hardware Wars, rating the arcades. Nice variety of stuff there. Consoles and arcades covered. Now this is interesting. Two books called Video Fever. In the early 80s, Pac-Man fever was rampant. And to play off that, there were probably more than two books called Video Fever, but these are the ones I have. This one's interesting because it's actually a sort of a young adult or children's novel. And it's always good. It's always interesting to see books that just sort of took advantage of the old, just sort of exploited the old retro gaming craze or the golden age boom of the early 80s. They weren't really retro games back then. They were just games at the time. Bobby loves to play Super Zorn, obviously a fictional game. And in this Video Fever book, sort of cautionary, addiction, entertainment, education, sort of a like societal approach to the subject. What can parents do? Do video games harm anyone? Why do the players play? And there's an old Shoe comic strip. There you go. Here's sort of I found this in it. I used to go to a lot of library sales. I hadn't been to too many so recently, but a bunch of these books I found in library sales where they would just be, dumping books that perhaps didn't get checked out so much anymore. And this is a neat with one in the children's section with some cool photos. Interesting, rare photos of rare items in here. Pretty cool stuff. There you go. Atari. Have you played Atari today? Interesting. It's a neat book to have. Hard one to find. Screenplay, The Story of Video Games, illustrated with over 60 photographs. Now this is a sort of a rare stab at a semi-comprehensive video game history book. We all know that the first true video game history book that covered the whole industry was in the mid-90s by Leonard Herman with Phoenix, Volume 1. Anyway, that's pretty neat. This is a really special book to me, the Vid Kids Book of Home Video Games by my buddy Rawson Stovall, a fellow Texan. Now Rawson, obviously very young here, he was amazing. He wrote video game reviews for newspapers. In fact, he had a column as a kid, and he was on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And I will post a link to an article I wrote about Rawson in the video here, so you guys can check that out. And I met him for lunch a while back, and he was kind enough to sign my book. Brett, from one longtime game reviewer and game guru to another. Hope you've played Atari today. Keep writing. Best, Rawson Stovall. Pretty cool. Another children's book with some how they work and how to win. So there's tips and tricks and technological information here with some interesting illustrations. Arcade Classic Scramble. Frogger. Black and white stuff as well. Save a little money by producing a lot of the book in black and white. Boy, that's pretty neat. That was I believe I found that at P. Picker Books in Tyler. Now, you guys have seen the Tron storybook and activity book I showed in my Tron video of all my Tron collectibles. And here are a couple of graphic novels based on Atari 2600 games. Now, you guys know that some certain Atari 2600 games were packaged with comic books. Well, they actually produced full-on graphic novels for a couple of the games. Pretty interesting stuff. The artwork was really gorgeous in these. Elliot S. Megan, popular Superman artist. Really nice, really nice. The Complete Video Warrior, another How to Win with illustrations. Like I mentioned in the last video, a lot of these have like illustrations as opposed to photos, just to sort of show you tips, tricks, diagrams, that kind of thing. This is a neat book because it covers the handhelds, things like Simon. There's the Microvision, C-Dual for the Microvision, a lot of the handheld games, even like Electronic Battleship. So basically all kinds of electronic games, microcomputer games. Here's a Tron book I didn't show in my Tron video because I forgot I had it. Mixed Up Mazes. Here's another, we talked about Jeff Rovin in the last video, just how prolific he was and how he was in the pop culture and video game scene. Yet another book by Jeff Rovin. Now, I got this one, I believe, at the book swap my mom used to take me to back in the day, but I got this when I was actually had my card and was going there myself without her assistance. But it's a really neat book. Some of these books I've only seen once, and that was the day I bought them. Haven't seen them since. A lot of them. Another tips and tricks book. And how to be a home video superstar. Secrets to the best games for your Atari VCS. Again, this is going to have diagrams instead of actual screenshots, but that's cool because it shows you how to win. I saw a Dodge 'em screenshot there. Great game. Pretty cool. Tips and tricks. And I actually do use these sometimes. Now, here's a book. This is the first sort of video game history book I remember seeing. Zap, The Rise and Fall of Atari. And I remember reading about this back in the day and never being able to find it at a used bookstore. I just never saw it anywhere. And I never saw it in a mail order catalog or anything. And I found when eBay finally came around in 96, I believe is when eBay started, but I got my start on eBay probably in 97 or 98, around that time. And I finally was able to get this Atari history book. Not too illustrated there, as you can see, but it is noteworthy for being an early history of Atari. And another tips and tricks book. and the Mind at Play, the Psychology of Video Games. So you know this is a serious book. Now you see it says San Antonio Public Library. Several of these books I got on my honeymoon, actually, many years ago, quarter of a century ago, when my wife and I, Carice, and I went down to San Antonio for our honeymoon. And dorks that we are, one of our activities, along with, going to the river walk and, eating Mexican food and just having a wonderful time looking at the San Antonio scenery and everything, beautiful town, party city, had a great time there. We went to several used bookstores, and we actually found this massive library sale, and I found like 2 or 3 of these books that I haven't seen since at that sale. Anyway, guys, so there you go. There's all my trade paperbacks, hardcovers, oversized books, and all that for all my retro gaming in my collection. It's awesome. This is probably the most special one to me of all of them. Anyway, they're all really cool. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you will click like on this video, and I hope you subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments of all these books, which ones do you have? I'd really like to hear from you. Thanks a lot, and thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys later.